Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam virare shanvatam smagata Krishna punya shravana kirtana Kirtastavivadani vidunoti suritsatam Nashtapareshu padeshu nityam bhavasasena Bhagavati Utana Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nashtigiri Grantarachana Bhagavani BYS Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 Chapter 3 Text 10 2.3.10 Akama sarvakamo va Mokshakama udarati Tivrena bhakti yogena Rajita purusham param Akama sarvakamo va Mokshakama udarati Tivrena bhakti yogena Yajika purusham param Kama sarva kamo va Moksha kama udarati Tivrena bhakti yogena Yajika purusham param Kamaha, one who has transcended all material desires. Sarva Kamaha, one who has the sum total of material desires. Va, either. Moksha Kamaha, one who desires liberation. Udharadi, with broader intelligence. Tivrena, with great force. Bhakti Yogena, by devotional service to the Lord. Yajita, should worship Purusham, the Lord. Param, the Supreme Whole. Translation and purport by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottama, or the Supreme Personality. It is he only who can award liberation to the impersonalists by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahma Jyoti, the bodily rays of the Lord. The Brahma Jyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun disk. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the supreme impersonal Brahma Jyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of all perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of the different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus being the supreme means of self-realization, is recommended here. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from material bondage. A kamaha is one who has no material desire. A living being, naturally being the part and parcel of the supreme whole, Purushan Purushan, has as his natural function to serve the supreme being, just as the parts and parcels of the body, or the limbs of the body, are naturally meant to serve the complete body. Desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Bhajaniya Paramam Purusha Supramatmasva Supatvam in his Sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of a living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of a living being in the material world, and such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, etc., by the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. In the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such superb feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Rajaguni for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis love the Lord without any return, and this is the perfect exhibition of that kama spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of akama is fully exhibited in the spiritual world. Thoughts of becoming one with the Lord, or being merged in the Brahmajyoti, can also be exhibitions of kama spirit if they are desires for one's own satisfaction to be free from the material miseries. A pure devotee does not want liberation so that he may be relieved from the miseries of life. Even without so-called liberation, a pure devotee is aspirant for the satisfaction of the Lord. Influenced by the kama spirit, Arjuna declined to fight in the Kurukshetra battlefield because he wanted to save his relatives for his own satisfaction. But being a pure devotee, he agreed to fight on the instruction of the Lord because he came to his senses and realized that satisfaction of the Lord at the cost of his own satisfaction was his prime duty. Thus he became a kama. That is the perfect stage of a perfect living being. Udadadi means one who has a broader outlook. People with desires for material enjoyment worship small demigods, and such intelligence is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita 7.20 as Dhritagyan, the intelligence of one who has lost his senses. One cannot obtain any result from demigods without getting sanction from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is the Lord, even for material benefits. Under the circumstances, one with a broader outlook, even with the desire for material enjoyment or for liberation, should take to the worship of the Lord directly. And everyone, whether in akama or sakama or mokshakama, should worship the Lord with great expedience. This implies that Bhakti Yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma and jnana, as the unmixed sun ray is very forceful and is therefore called tivra. Similarly, unmixed bhakti yoga of hearing, chanting, etc., may be performed by one and all, regardless of inner motive. Om Ajnanatamidasya Jnananjivasya Chakshurvilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Vishnupadaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prashani Nirvishesha Srimad Bhakti Devishitani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Translation: a person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, or without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada would often say that even if human beings have 2 arms and 2 legs, they're not to be considered a human being if they don't understand. One does not understand the principle or the main purpose of life, which is simply to re-stimulate one's natural servitude towards Krishna. And therefore, even if one by modern material calculation is considered quite intelligent or affluent or opulent, for example, anyone who goes on traveling Sankirtan might see this angle in Volkers. They're into realtorship. They have places almost everywhere in every major town or city. They're quite smart, who are those brothers or friends, I mean to say, at expanding their entrepreneurship. And in this way, actually, this is the same mindset that one can adopt for Krishna in terms of service. And I was kind of joking around with Matsi Prabhu about this because we saw this in Tahoe. And Matsi Prabhu texted, if we could just make Volkers a devotee, then we could take over the whole world. Because that's actually the original feeling, the Adirasa, the happiness as Prabhupada speaks about in this purport, is actually coming from increasing Krishna's enjoyment. So Adinatha Priti to Krishna Priti, satisfaction of one's own senses to the satisfaction of Krishna's senses. And at the beginning, for a conditioned soul, it could seem unnatural and even what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, like poison. However, if one simply takes the so-called poison, eventually it turns into nectar. And Prabhupada would give the example of the condition of jaundice, that when there's unusual secretions of the bilious substance in the body, that one's taste buds become covered by bitterness. And even the sweetest thing will taste bitter. However, that's unnatural for the living entity. And the remedy is to keep on taking sugar, candy, or whatever the sweet is. In due course, the bitterness goes away. Similarly, one in a conditioned state of existence does not want to serve Krishna and wants to serve oneself and others for whatever reason, then one eventually will come to this stage of akama, purifying one's desires, which Prabhupada has said elsewhere is the difference between Buddhism and Vaishnavism, is that the Buddhists think that you kill desire altogether. However, Prabhupada says desire is the symptom of the living entity. To desire is natural, and to desire is eternal. The difference is to redirect the desire to Krishna's pleasure, and then that's the purification process. That's the perfection of desire. So it's a redirecting. Prabhupada mentioned in this regard that, for example, if we ask someone, an average person on the street, what is the ultimate desire or the ultimate aim of life? Who knows what their answer might be? If it's anything but Krishna Bhakti or Prema Pumartha Mahan, devotion, dedication to Krishna, redeveloping our natural, eternal love for Krishna. If it's anything but that, they're actually considered mudhas. Mudha means one who is a rascal or a fool. And in this way, Prabhupada would ask different people that he talked to, because Prabhupada was in a positive and progressive stage of immortality, that he would meet with quite big personalities. And as such, he would just ask them a question, what is your philosophy? And if the philosophy wasn't in line with Krishna's philosophy, then he would immediately categorize them into 4 lower or subhuman species, although they were in human bodies. Prabhupada could analyze that. And he did Prabhupada references as pralayantam upashrityam, or at the end, at the dissolution of your personal existence here in this world. What is the final goal? Where will you be situated? That is the question. And for one who is sarva kama, sarva all kama, having desires, Prabhupada also gave in this regard, what if one has having all these desires to fulfill, even to their very deathbed, they are still wanting to extend their life, not for service to Krishna, but to service for their own agenda. And he gave the example in Allahabad that he met one gentleman who was on his deathbed, and the gentleman told the doctor, please give me 4 years more. Can't you give me at least this, dear doctor? I have not finished my program. And in this way, one clings to life, not knowing what is the ultimate goal and what one is going to be situated in next. And Krishna says for such people that don't believe in him, his authority of what he's said and his pure devotees about him, that for them, to such people, he comes as death. Mrityu sarva haras chapam. Mrityu means death, sarva means all. Haras means to devour. Cha also, aham. Krishna says, I am that. And this comes in the form of time, primarily. In the purport of 1034, Prabhupada mentions the 6 different changes that anything material undergoes, and one can reference these to understand the temporality of the physical existence while investing more attention, energy, and resources on their spiritual existence. Namely, 1, growth, birth, then growth, maintenance, a reproduction or byproducts, means one takes on a family, dwindling 5, and finally vanish and vanquish, death 6. Therefore, Prabhupada says that one who has medha, or true intelligence, is not just one who reads a lot or who supposedly knows a lot, but one who actually understands and is able to apply the said subject matter when necessary. Therefore, there are many, materially at least, intelligent people, but do they know what the goal of life is? And if they do, are they able to apply it in a timely manner? That's what Prabhupada says in the purport, is actually intelligence. Apply them when necessary, as well as understand. And Prabhupada mentions this in regard to Hiranyakashipu, that he asked for so many boons from Lord Brahma and said, I cannot be this and I cannot be killed then at this time and by this weapon, etc. And he actually originally asked for just make me immortal. Did but Lord Brahma said, I myself am not immortal. I cannot grant you that which I do not have. And therefore Hiranyakashipu got many benedictions. And however, because of that, he became really puffed up and filled with pride, in other words. However, again, coming back to 1034, Krishna comes to everyone in the form of death in one way or the other, and therefore no one can check it. What was brought up in this study for the verse is Prabhupada mentions Gandhi, that what we read in the purport, altruism or philanthropy, even non-profit work devoid of spiritual benefit, is that Gandhi was sending good messages for the most part, non-violent civil disobedience and unite together and be attached to your fellow land and kin and so forth. However, Prabhupada mentioned that he wrote a letter to Gandhi personally telling him, you should step down from your political agenda and join Krishna consciousness, basically. However, Gandhi did not, and he was assassinated, and that was his downfall. Another word for this akama is nishkinshana or akinchana. Nishkinshana means one who possesses nothing. And what does that mean? One who possesses nothing materially, the way this great Shishka Maharaj gives the example is a bank teller. The perfection of the bank teller is so many paper notes might come through his or her possession. If one claims it for themselves, then they're considered a thief and they'll lose their job immediately. However, if one simply counts and transfers it to the next station, then that's the perfection of that position as a bank teller. Similarly, if one accepts whatever comes into one's possession by work or by gift, then utilizes it in Krishna's service, then that's the perfection. This is called akama or nishkinchana or akinchana, this kind of mood. Another thing is that anything devoid of akarma means action that's devotional in nature or spiritual in nature for Krishna's pleasure, routine karma or vikarma, forbidden action. It entangles one either positively or negatively on a temporary and limited platform, and therefore it's considered inauspicious and not to be engaged in. The karmis, for example, one who is a fruitive worker, wanting to satisfy themselves and their extended selfishness, that's what Prabhupada calls it. Concentrated when I focus on myself and extended when when one focuses on others, is unhappiness always, because the method is working hard, and working hard only for oneself or others in their circle, it will not get one to the ultimate goal in life. And therefore, only one who is akama or nishkinchana or akinchana, kinchana means something, means nothing, I have nothing, that only these people are happy. Param Shanti, they have superior peace or ultimate peace. Why? Because their spiritual anxiety does not adversely affect their psychology, and one simply engages in Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. Tivrena means with extreme force. One intensifies their service. Typically, by less sleep and more service. And that's how one can actually judge is if their service is intensifying and I'm more eager to serve rather than to sleep and than to honor prasad or whatever it might be. This is one way to gauge one's own advancement. And Lord Chaitanya, he gave the fourth stanza of the Shikshashtakam about this explained. He says, Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam vajagadi shikamaya Ramajanmani janmanishwarim bhavata jakti ahetuki twai. Only unto you cause this service. I don't want wealth. I don't want a good birth. I don't want followers. I don't want an attractive partner. None of those things attract me anymore. I only want a hetuki, causeless service unto you. It's a beautiful meditation. Give me facility to engage in your service in other ways. Elsewhere, in terms of the Sarvakama or Sakarma, is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he says, Nashta Buddhaya, that actually anyone who is in this category of action, of lifestyle, is actually considered to be no intelligence. Intelligence is zero. And the perfect intelligence, as stated by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is Krishnare Bhajise Bhava Antura. Anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness means trying to take shelter, has perfect intelligence. And the relevant story that I'll conclude with is Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, as a young boy, was distraught because his stepmother told him, you cannot sit on your father's lap, what to speak of being on the throne. And he was a Kshatriya, he got very fired up and told his biological mother about this situation. And his biological mother told him, you just go to the forest and worship Lord Vishnu. And then the original motivation actually was Dhruva Maharaj wanted everything bigger than his father. He wanted a kingdom and so forth. So this is considered sarva kama. He had all material desires. Fast forward, because of his intense worship, Lord Vishnu personally appeared to him. And at such point, Dhruva Maharaj was completely satisfied. And he immediately became Akama or Nishkinchana or Akinchana. And this is the perfection of human life. Translation: a person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Home, the personality of God. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Questions or reflections? Yes.
So this famous verse it tells it doesn't contemplate who you are. It doesn't matter what's the situation. If you just whether you're qualified or not, you just engage in Krishna consciousness. So my question for you is that everyone, whether Akama or Sakama or Moksha Kama, should worship the Lord with great experience. So what is that experience? That's the
Mid-15th century, advantage or benefit from Old French expediency, from late Latin expedientia, from expedientem, that which is expedient. Advantageous, fit, or proper to a purpose, useful, beneficial. Make fit or ready, prepare. Let's see a modern definition of this. You're asking what experience means.
Yeah,
I
mean,
it's simple.
my difficulty is understanding the sentence, because if I understand something, I can easily paraphrase it. But I'm not able. That's why I'm asking you to help.
Experience refers to the quality of being practical, useful, or advantageous for a particular purpose.
I'm speaking about you.
It just means one should worship the Lord according to one's capacity.
I found a definition that might help. It says the quality of being practical, advantageous, or suitable for a specific purpose, often at the expense of fairness or long-term ethical principles.
So in that case, that would be kind of, you should urgently, for a higher purpose, engage in Krishna consciousness.
Basically, yeah.
That's what I'm getting. But
yeah,
maybe it's
it says it can also mean doing something with speed or urgency.
That's what it seems is more practical with speed. Expedient means, for example, to expedite the process. If you do something
like this surgeon
as fast as possible, as soon as possible.
Yeah. So that would make more sense to me.
Yeah.
In the last sentence, Srila Prabhupada says that unmixed bhakti yoga, clearing, chanting, etc., may be performed by one in all regardless of inner motive. So how is it that one can perform pure bhakti yoga if one makes has impure motives?
Reread this. What was that? The last?
Yeah, very last sentence. Yeah.
As the unmixed sun ray is very forceful, this one,
Yeah.
and is therefore called tiva. Similarly, unmixed bhakti yoga, hearing, chanting, is certainly performed by one and all, regardless of inner motive. From what I understand, is that because Krishna is considered a pavitam uttamam, he's the ultimate pure, that no matter what stage of one's, as Prabhupada says, their inner motive, regardless of that one should simply engage and start where one is at, and in due course of time, the process of purification, Chettodarpanamarjanam, takes place. It's not that one is engaged in pure devotional service, but one is engaging still in regulated devotional service, or Misha Bhakti, mixed devotional service. Prabhupada uses unmixed. There's mixed Misha, and in due course of time, one becomes pure. This service itself is pure. The condition of one's own self, it becomes impure for that person. But the service itself is pure. Means because it's Krishna. You're dealing with Krishna. And the way Prabhupada gives the example is the sun and the cloud. The sun is always there, ever illuminating and giving off heat. It's not that that illumination and the heat itself is ever damper. It seems that way to one's vantage point in relationship to the sun, if a cloud is there. However, the sun itself is likened to Krishna and the service, and therefore is ever pure. I understand. Once.
A reflection from, I like how you explain that Buddhism means their philosophy is to kill desire, and Vaishnavism is to perfect or purify our desire.
Yeah, that's actually, it seems simple, and for us, it's simple. However, for many, it's not. They won't understand it. And we were just talking to one Buddhist lady in Truckee, and she said there's a lot of similarities in philosophy, actually. And we didn't talk about what the goal of life and stuff. That generally, that's the answer, is to kill desire altogether and become nothing. It's like no mind. For example, we're in South Lake Tahoe, we met one gentleman, and he was asking a little bit about our philosophy, and he said, we were talking about spiritual teachers, and he said, so when the spiritual teacher, by saying nothing, he says everything. I said, well, that's possible. There's a time for silence, but there's also a time, as Prabhupada says, the real or the proper understanding and application of Mona is actually to only speak about Krishna. For example, we were in the Inspiration Point and so many people were showing up, thousands upon the day. And you get to hear what they're speaking about. For the average person, it's a photo shoot. That's what it was. And it's just making an honest assessment. Everyone's different. But the point is, you get to understand what is dry and what is nourishing in terms of speaking and sharing, etc. And to make that distinguishment is actually a high class realization. The average person does not know that. Okay, let me not take action. I myself did that before being welcome to this community. It was okay, let me observe silence. I did it for 24 hours from a plane from Bali, Indonesia, all the way to here, America. I just wrote one sign that said, observe in silence, thank you for understanding. And I actually didn't have to pull it out once. You can travel internationally without saying anything. It's proof. But the point I'm making is that I thought, okay, let me observe silence. Let me become no person and no place with no identity. It sounded good, and it sounds just foolish. I'm something now, how can I become nothing later? Prabhupada answers. So to purify desire means to remain individual in connection with Krishna. And Prabhupada would call this dovetailing. Dovetailing Krishna. Nice.
But I was just thinking that me somehow it looks like that just doing service, which is pure, even if you haven't voluntarily done all things, it's sounds good, but just like I remember this. For example, of company he describes that there are three kinds of mixed adoptions. One is the mode of ignorance. As soon as there's mix, that means some material quality or more things there. So, and material mountains are in three words. So, what Kapila then says, if somebody worships in Tamil, his worship is like maybe we can find out words. It's like putting ghee into ashes. I don't remember, but never given that examples there. You can easily find with the ashes that kind of color. So it looks like if you just continue pouring ghee into ashes, it's not going to produce anything. Although some idea of offering is there, and ultimately, I think you are right, but it could take a long time until person kind of just changes, has a change of heart.
Yes.
So if he could just repeat his mistake over and over again, what it says.
Since one who worships the deity of Godhead in temples, but does not know that the Supreme Lord, as Paramatma, is situated in every living entity's heart, must be in ignorance, and is compared to one who offers oblations into ashes.
Yeah. Can you see previous verses? What's the context? It's very interesting. I'm not saying you are. It was not definitely it was only the hope of someone to do this. But what is the active principle of actual changing? Is it time or is it something else? Let's see.
It's a great question.
Is speaking. I can speak in this very good. But yeah, the verse before says, I am present in every living entity as the super soul. If someone neglects or disregards that super soul everywhere and engages himself in the worship of the deity in the temple, that is simply imitation.
Okay, go before that.
As the chariot of air carries an aroma from its source and immediately catches the sense of smell, similarly, one who constantly engages in emotional service in Krishna consciousness can catch the Supreme Soul who is equally present everywhere.
That's what he said. So it is there. But at the same time, can you then see after that verse? After the verse with of Galatians.
After it, one who offers me respect but is envious of the bodies of others and is therefore a separatist never attains peace of mind because of his inimical behavior towards other living entities.
Okay. So it looks like if you have basically this style, one can take worshiping Krishna, but it's quite offensive.
Yes.
To others, to Krishna, because you neglect, you think you have Krishna on your shelf. You don't see Krishna in the other people's heart.
Yes.
So, next one.
My dear mother, even if he worships with proper rituals and paraphernalia, a person who is ignorant of my presence in all living entities never pleases me by the worship of my deities in the temple.
Yes.
Performing his prescribed duties, one should worship the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead until one realizes my presence in his own heart and in the hearts of other living entities as well. As the blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of a differential outlook.
That's differential outlook is separatistic mentality, which is pretty good. In one sense, you should not think that we are better than others. And other people they have nothing to do with you or with next one.
Therefore, through charitable gifts and attention, as well as through friendly behavior, and by viewing all to be alike, one should propitiate me, who abide in all creatures as their very self. Living entities are superior to inanimate objects, O Blessed Mother, and among them, living entities who display life symptoms are better. Animals with developed consciousness are better than them, and better still are those who have developed sense perception.
It's different.
Yeah, it's a great question. So basically, you're asking if is it time that purifies one, or is it mercy? Is that what your question is?
I think for everything it takes time.
Yes.
Even to develop Krishna consciousness, it takes some time. Somehow, I'm not convinced that it's the time is the main factor.
Yeah, it's not the main factor. It's always is a factor, though. And well, here's one thing I can say is that it also depends on the intensity of one's desire. As Prabhupada uses this word expedient. If one is constantly contemplating what a precarious situation this material existence is actually, and to take on another birth is not a good thing physically, then there will naturally be a sense of expediency. And for one who is willing out to seek sadhu sangha or Vaishnava seva anywhere and everywhere, then they typically advance a lot faster than someone who just casually goes and practices bhakti yoga. Two people can start at the same time, but however, according to their choices after that, one will advance quicker than the other based on this is what I observed in myself, based on one's ability and willingness and practically performing devotional service. And in this way, yes, time kshane, it's explained, and this word kshane means over a period of lives. For the average person, it takes periods of lives. However, Prabhupada himself has said there's a video that one can do it in this life itself. If he has said it, then that is so authoritative. And it's a matter of course, effort and mercy. Krishna provides the mercy in the form of his service and his servants, etc., and our individual effort to take advantage of it or not.
So it looks like we're trying to say that even if somebody has ulterior motives, but he takes shelter of sadhus and engages according to their instructions, basically that's the process of your devotion. Actually, to me, it looks like that's what we are doing. It's not that they come to Krishna consciousness. People think small children are innocent. Of course, they are innocent. They need protection. But we can also understand they are bringing a big bag, a huge luggage from previous lives. And as soon as they come to it in adolescence, their kind of attachment, sometimes even before that, becomes very clear when it's not an angel. so
Yeah.
To me, it looks like you can have ulterior motives, but you will advance if you take shelter. You will advance over time if you take shelter of your devotion. That's what I'm getting.
That's what I understand. Yeah, and it's true. But even in myself, I was in elementary school, and I remember my father had a drawer with coins. And I'll take this from you. That stealing propensity already there at a young age. Where is that coming from? Obviously, previous actions, lives, and so forth. However, that can be those types of propensities can be eradicated. The more, means frequently one gets in touch with Vaishnavas and serves them because they're so potent. And then their remnants, their dust, and then their blessings upon one. If one sincerely serves and pleases the Vaishnavas, directly or indirectly, then they bestow their blessing upon such an individual. And those are blessings that are very powerful. and that has the ability to cut the nuts of material attachment, which is essentially the cause for one taking to any unrighteous action, is these attachments and the immediate pleasure that is derived out from these attachments. And because Anandamaya Vyasa, we're all eternal pleasure seekers. That's how everyone is arranging their behavior, is according to the pleasure that one gets from it. Therefore, without a higher taste, knowing there's spiritual benefit and there's more happiness, succumb in devotional service, then one will continue to act on this base mode of this base realm of existence and continuing to attain themselves. Mercy, effort, and mercy. So quiet. I know about it. It's not understanding. Yes.
There's one story I heard from Rani Shanguru. Else that in Pakistan in Hyderabad. There was some man in prison who received a Back to Godhead magazine and saw on the cover Srila Prabhupada. And his man was a thief actually, who been in prison for that. But he saw that Prabhupada had a nice, beautiful watch on the cover, so he developed a desire that maybe if I go to the temple here and Hyderabad, and we'll be there, and maybe I can get the watch, sell it. So he got freed, and he actually went there, and somehow Prabhupada was there at that time. So it's like the darshan room, and all the devotees were there. And then as soon as he walked in, Prabhupada said, Prabhupada took off his watch and said, "Here, you wanted this?" And I guess that kind of mystified him, and he actually became a devotee. But so that's an example of something with an injured desire. Of course, we don't know what happened to him.
Yeah.
He actually stayed around, but that's kind of, yeah, Radhashanti said he became a devotee.
Srimad Bhagavtam ki jai.
Also says,
I wanted to give the reference of Diti. Diti wanted to kill Indra. She pushed Kashyap, and Kashyap gave her a process of worshipping Lord Vishnu. And she was worshipping Lord Vishnu in order to kill Indra. We understand for that she was pacified, and she gave birth to.
actually, it was not. She was not worshipping Vishnu to kill him. It was, as far as I remember, worship of Lord Vishnu was a remedy for her sinful desire to kill him. And before Kashyapa gave her the crosses, he scolded her. While we were trying to get the crosses, no, although it was what was Vishnu, right? And then as a remedy, because he scolded her, and apparently she understood her mistake. And then he gave the method. So by that method, the children, because probably at the time of conception, she had that desire. But then Kashyapa can scold. Worshipping of Vishnu, suddenly good things happen. Because Indra couldn't kill children because her children were saved, plus their mentality was changed. She also, was saved from
Mm.
It's, I mean,
Mm.
point is good, but it just depends on how it develops. I think that's how the sequence goes. Because I remember Kasha was calling that now something Bhagavtam, which means that she was drinking all how to sell deities, how to sell brahmanas. She should not eat anything until just her worship is done, until she distributes food to a different living entity. You know, it's like a little bit like, you know, being a full-time Pujari. So we guess this and that.
Mm.
So actually, you know, there were so many benefits from that. So that changed basically mentality of her children. But I think her mentality was already changed before that, otherwise it would be very difficult to execute that. That would be devotional service in the world of ignorance.
Mm.
But because she, as we said, she took shelter of Krishna and she was her guru and husband. So actually, yeah, she's by getting she she understood her mistake and that's why she eagerly followed that. And the benefits her children are saved, Angel didn't kill them, and Angel is not killed. So it all became suspicious. I think it's wonderful. It's not.
Check.
Check.
Check.